We're at a crossroads. World of Warcraft has just added what could easily go down as the best feature this game has ever added to it. It's a concept with limitless potential and the ability to right so many wrongs from the past in a way that is cool and interesting, updated frequently, while also being super accessible. We need to talk about Lorewalking. Hello everyone, I am Jmulls. And with patch 11.17, they added Lorewalking into the game, where you essentially sit on a park bench with Lorewalker Cho as he regales you with stories of Azeroth's past. And you know what, I guess it's not just limited to Azeroth. In a lot of ways, it's a lore recap, where Lorewalker Cho will take you down specific quest lines to immerse yourself and to also teach you about various elements of the story of World of Warcraft. 3 Lorewalking quests were added with the introduction of Lorewalking. One for Xal'atath, another one for the Ethereals, and another one for our boy Arthas. And I think they all show the best and worst elements of this feature. They have some high highs and some really low lows. But if World of Warcraft and Blizzard are able to capture and understand what makes the good parts of these quests so dang good, so dang satisfying, and hone in on those elements and forego the parts that are just kind of bleh and boring and stale, then I think Blizzard is truly onto something great here. For the longest time, one of the biggest crippling flaws of World of Warcraft was that the perception was most of the story wasn't told in the game, because of the number of novels, short stories, comics, and outside media you had to consume if you wanted to fully understand the story. The game still had a story, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the important character moments, points of character development, and a lot of great stories were simply locked away outside the confines of the game. And when you're trying to tell this large overarching narrative as a video game, missing out on important stories in the game just doesn't sit well with a lot of people, because not everyone wants to go out and read a novel to find out what happened. And with The War Within, Blizzard has really tried to hone in on storytelling. They've tried to tighten it up, tried to make it more varied and interesting, to have an actual beginning, middle, and end within the game, to lay down foreshadowing, to have these character moments, to have these moments of character development at that. They've been trying to have it in the game, but they haven't fully succeeded. A prime example of this is also with 11.1.7, with the introduction of a new questline, The Legacy of Erethdor, that essentially is a follow-up to a short story that you have to go out to read. It's not in the game, but it follows up on that story with those characters. And I'll be talking about how Lorewalking could easily rectify this big crippling flaw in World of Warcraft storytelling later in the video, but let's lay some groundwork. How does the system operate, and what does it do well, and what does it do bad? Well, it's very simple. You essentially go through a bunch of snippets of a storyline to get the main plot beats, and also moments of development. You're not physically traveling to these locations, Lorewalker Cho just teleports you there. So there's no real travel, and it's all just like shotgunning the storyline. If a scenario has already happened within the game, they just have you replay those specific quests, which was the large chunk of the Ethereal questline, because a lot of those quests already existed within the game. So they just had you do some quest lines in Netherstorm, then a bunch with the Brokers in Shadowlands, because they are important now, as we saw with the reveal of 11.2. But if a scenario doesn't exist in the game, then they actually create content to fill in the gaps, like being able to play as Arthas as a paladin to be introduced to key characters so that the rest of the Lorewalking questline makes sense and hits harder. They even have an entire section when you're playing as Arthas where you're climbing the stairs up to Icecrown Citadel, reliving those memories. It's really dang cool. Not executed the best, because the finale of that little section just kind of ends, and I wish they had a moment where you were at the top of Icecrown, like the end of Warcraft 3, and you were putting on the helmet, or even just show that cutscene. That would have been great, but it goes to show this overall scenario, these ideas, have so much potential to give an actually good recap, to give an in-game device to catch yourself up to important characters, moments, and events that have happened in World of Warcraft. And throughout this entire thing, by the way, you can ask Lorewalker Cho to clarify various key terms or characters if you yourself are unfamiliar with them, or you can just keep playing through the scenario. It's a really smart system. They don't heavily incentivize completing all of these. If you don't care about it, you like miss out on like maybe a couple pieces of transmog and a toy. It's not that big of a deal. And I think a couple of pieces of like catch-up gear, but it's not even like that good. Really, if you're doing the Lorewalking quest, it's because you want that recap or you want those toys. And I think this is the best way to have it. For those who are interested in the story, who want to consume the story, who want to be invested, and for those who may just be unfamiliar with a couple of things, if there's an in-game Lorewalking event for that, they can just go out and do it. They're not the shortest things ever, but they're also not like hours long. I think each of them ran me about 40 to 50 minutes. And I think the true beauty of this system lies in its future potential, because the ones we have in-game, in my opinion, are solidly fine. I would personally rank them, with Office being the best one, then Xalatath, and then the Ethereals being what I would call a bad one. Because the Ethereal ones are pretty much just go do a bunch of the Burning Crusade quests and a bunch of Shadowlands quests. It's like solidly okay. The other ones, though, have, like, more unique scenarios and events, and they're just cool, in my opinion, with more interesting gameplay. And just as a brief aside, don't expect difficult content here at all. It's like questing difficulty, right? But, like, we're here for the storytelling. I can understand why they wouldn't want the gameplay to be, like, overly challenging or anything. I think, though, for quite a few of these big moments, they need to last a bit longer or to have a little bit more going for them, because when you're trying to build up Dimensius as this big bad guy who's gonna become the big end boss of the expansion with 11.2, and you kill the dude in the Lorewalking quest within like 5 seconds or so, it's that same old problem with World of Warcraft overworld balancing, right? They try to hype somebody up, but you never feel that in the actual content, unless you're doing an actual raid. But that's kind of par for the course for World of Warcraft, and is not a unique situation or issue for Lorewalking. But the scenarios, those to me are so dang cool. And the way they are able to blend various quest lines from World of Warcraft with new ones, I think really does add a lot to the overall scenario. It is kind of dependent upon how good those quests actually were, like the ones for Arthas where you're going into the cave and viewing the memories of Arthas picking up Frostmourne for the first time. That's just a really cool scenario, as opposed to like, go kill a bunch of Ethereals in Netherstorm. Or it's like, dude, we're going back to the heyday of the Black Empire. You're gonna take up the role of a servant for the old gods. You're gonna also see them, by the way, and you're going to defend Nyalotha against the forces of Xalatath. Dude, it's so cool! And they're not afraid to have new story revelations happen within Lorewalking. And I don't mind that because it's part of the game. Now, I think the future potential will entirely lie, or at least primarily lie, based upon how frequent this content gets updated and gets new quest lines. In my opinion, one of the first ones they should have done, because I understand the 3 they did were largely a proof of concept. We're dealing with the Ethereals in 11.2, so help people get up to speed for them in the brokers. I get that. Xalatath is the big bad of World of Warcraft right now, not named Dimensius. I get that. Office is a tried and true storyline that people love and adore. I found it really funny that in the Office one, they just ignored Shadowlands. Really did feel as if Blizzard was like, okay, guys, look, we know what we did in Shadowlands. The brokers are still important. Can we, like, forget the stuff with Office specifically? Like, can we just forget that element? They didn't actively retcon anything. It's more like they're just ignoring the jailer stuff. And you know what? Considering how bad that stuff was in Shadowlands, I'm willing to just say, let's just shun it and pretend it didn't happen. That's cool in my book. I get why they picked the ones that they did, and in the grand scheme of things, if they could only have picked 3, these are probably the 3 to have picked. My opinion, though, when you have a new questline, like Legacy of Erethdor, we're bringing it back. We're going full circle in this video. When you have a questline like that, that directly builds off of storylines that you develop in a short story, not in the game, my opinion, have a Lorewalking event to just recap that short story. It doesn't need to be that long. It doesn't need to be a full 50-minute thing or anything. Just give me the spark notes, give me the main plot beats, so that the story itself is in the game. That, in my opinion, is the true potential. Whenever a new book book comes out, a new short story, a new audio drama, a new comic, whatever. When anything like that comes out, have a scenario crafted for it in Lorewalking to have the story in the game. And if you want an expanded version with a bit more detail, you can go out and view it and consume that content like that. But if you want to play the game and you want the story told in the game, have that as an option as well. That's where I think the big potential this system has truly lies. From here on out, the story can and should, in my opinion, be told and be available within the game. You don't have to stop doing novels. You don't have to stop doing short stories. You don't have to stop doing audio dramas or anything like that. Just have a Lorewalking quest line done for whatever story you tell there in the game. It doesn't need to be big, it doesn't need to be bombastic, it doesn't need to be anything like that, just have it be available in the game. World of Warcraft is not a perfect game. It has its faults and still does to this day, but it's stuff like Lorewalking that to me shows WoW is on the right direction, because while it still has its faults, while this content did crash for me on day one, by the way, like I was just crashing when I was doing the Xalatath Nyalotha bit for like 5 minutes on stream. It was kind of funny. Yes, absolutely, World of Warcraft needs to tighten up the overall quality of patch days. The game still has big flaws, but overall, the game is going in such a better direction. And I think 11.1.7 shows a lot of the highs and lows of modern WoW. Because I disliked severely the Legacy of Arathor questline. I thought it was boring, I thought the writing was terrible, I think it does a terrible job setting up that storyline to be expanded on in the future by just making all of those characters uninteresting, boring, and stale, and also just annoying. But then you have things like Lorewalking, which is addressing one of WoW's biggest problems that it's had for the longest time, and it's not perfect. Some are better than others. However, the principle, the heart of the matter, this is something WoW has sorely needed. And I'm glad they're at least getting around to doing it. I just hope this thing isn't abandoned in the future. Because I understand, to do the level of content addition for Lorewalking that I believe it's going to need in the future to stay relevant and to really fully realize its potential, that will be quite a bit of work. But for the storytelling, I think it's worth it. To find the resources to allocate them and to spend the time making sure Lorewalking isn't abandoned or underutilized in the future. Not everyone is going to care about the storytelling or story in World of Warcraft. That is something that has always existed within the community and something that will always continue to exist. However, the beauty of Lorewalking is you can just choose to interface with it or choose to ignore it. I just hope Blizzard chooses to continue to interface with it, because I fully believe this is one of WoW's and Blizzard's best ideas in years. Heck, I'll go so far as to say ever. Can you imagine a Garrosh Lorewalking where we actually get the trial at the end of Mists of Pandaria that was confined within a book? Imagine that was actually in-game to some degree. How cool would that be? A Scarlet Crusade Lorewalking for when we eventually go back to Northrend in The Last Titan. Stuff like that. There's so much potential here to make the storytelling in World of Warcraft, a game that has been going on for 21 years, easily accessible and digestible, to where you don't have to go to scattered expansions to consume a single story that will be talked about now that no one will be willing to do, or at least a lot of people won't be willing to do. But within a curated experience like Lorewalking, I think a lot of people would be willing to do that, especially if you get a nifty little toy at the end of it, like being able to turn into Office. And even the worst one so far, with the Ethereals just being a bunch of quest lines I've done in the past, right? They're boring. But it was still a success. It highlighted the important characters, the important elements of the storyline that are going to be expanded on in the near future with 11.2 when we go to Koresh. So even the worst one was still good. And I can imagine if you haven't played those storylines in the game, and those are fresh and new to you, it would be supremely helpful or beneficial to do it. Again, 2 thumbs up from me. With that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on Lorewalking. What would you like to see covered in the future when it comes to Lorewalking? Ideas, characters, concepts. How often would you like to see them add new ones? I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives, and also let me know how do you think they could improve upon this system in the future. While you're down there, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye, everybody. Until we meet again.